In the documentary, which we're going to rely on here because it was very interesting and had a lot of good evidence, they interviewed the Mason City police sergeant. Here's what he said. He's on in the documentary describing the timeline, the morning of her disappearance, just to set the scene. Let's take a listen to it. SOT 51.
At 7:13 a.m., the Mason City Police receives a phone call from KINT to do a welfare check on Jodi. We immediately dispatched an officer. When the officer arrived, they found a lot of her belongings were scattered across the parking lot. The mirror on her Mazda Miata was bent backwards. They found the car keys laying on the ground, and the door key was bent. They started to walk between the cars. They started noticing more things. Her hair dryer. There's an earring over here, and there's some paperwork here, and red high-heeled shoes. You can see drag marks. We've got a problem. Jodi's been dragged out of here. Immediately, radios for supervisor, additional units showed up, and a perimeter's then set.
So they knew right away when they got there, which wasn't until after 7, that she'd been abducted. They could see that she'd been dragged. There were drag marks, which were showing on camera here. And then they went inside the apartment and found some of the things that you and I are discussing. Let me roll that in SOT 52.
So not only were just wine glasses found there was other dishes found there. There was multiple plates, items of food. Things were fingerprinted and things were photographed. That was what you did. Everything was fingerprinted. DNA was just super brand new then, and it was basically unheard of in local law enforcement. Those chemicals that the fingerprint dust is compiled of contain bacteria, which kills DNA. There was some on those surfaces like touch DNA. Fingerprint dust is not good for touch DNA. Do we still have items that we haven't fingerprinted? Yes, we do. Do we plan to send those in? Absolutely.
So no DNA was the biggest headline out of that.
Absolutely.
Whatever may have been there has been destroyed by the fingerprint dust that they unleashed because it was 1995. They didn't have, as he said, DNA analysis was in its infancy. So although it was out there, I mean, we had just watched the O.J. Simpson trial, which relied heavily on DNA analysis. So I'm not sure exactly why things wouldn't have been preserved or would have been entirely spoiled. All right. So what do you glean? What do you think is the most important piece of data from the crime scene?
Well, I think that they do have more items from the crime scene than they have revealed. I think they're intentionally withholding what that information is because they think it could be corroborative in nature if someone were to come forward. I think I have a sense of what that possibly is, but I'm quite certain they have more than they had disclosed. Unfortunately, when they examined that automobile, because her key was found bent, laying on the ground, and the car door was locked, they only processed the exterior of the car. And then they towed the car and gave it back to her family before anyone ever had a chance to go in and process the interior of the car, which might have had some evidence. I mean, to assume that no one had been in the car is just, I mean, it just doesn't make sense that you wouldn't process the entire vehicle. But they didn't.
But this being 2000 or 1995, there wouldn't have been a bunch of surveillance cameras on every store and apartment complex and gas station. It was just a different time. We used to have privacy.
Yeah.
We used to be able to wander around without being on camera all the time. No, Ring cameras on doorbells. Like, was there anything of use that we know of that may have caught somebody on camera?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think every angle has been looked at and there just isn't anything. People have said this was somebody really clever. I think this was somebody that was simply lucky because, she was attacked at 4:30 in the morning. A lot of noise was made. There had already been loud voices between two males arguing. The police were almost called. I think it's sheer brazen luck that this individual got away with this abduction.
Do you believe that the man who did this to her is still alive?
I can't say. I cannot answer that question.
Well, I mean, if he's not still alive, there can't be an arrest and there can't be a trial. And this is all for not? I don't. It's like
Well,
it'd be interesting to know who did it, but there's no reason to keep the case file open or protect the integrity of the investigation.
well, that was my point when I went to court to fight to get the search warrant of John Van Cise's vehicle unsealed so that we could see what the evidence was against John Van Cise. And the county attorney fought it, and we appealed to the state. And before the state did anything more, essentially the state attorney general then filed a motion to block it being reviewed or released. I think it's an administrative review is officially what they do. I decided to withdraw the motion to appeal because my attorneys told me that it was very likely I was going to win because I had Iowa law on my side, and the family by then had said they did not want it released if it, could possibly jeopardize a prosecution. So I thought, well, I'm not going to get anything more from it. I've got all I need. I think I have more than.
This is the search warrant for John's car, for his car?
Yes, actually, not for the car he owned at the time. This was for cars that he purchased after he moved to Arizona and dropped out, which is where I tracked him down and found him living and talked him into talking to me. I'm the only person in 24 years that ever talked to him. And then I stayed in touch with his family until he died, and I'm the one that announced that he died. But he had two vehicles. What they did was they subpoenaed him to come in and give fingerprints again, which meant he drove to Iowa in his vehicle, his newer vehicle. They then put a device on his car to track where he went, hoping that he would take them to the burial scene. So that was their ploy.
Mhm.
That's what they attempted to do. And they have since pretty much confirmed that. They haven't officially confirmed it, but once I put all the pieces together, I said, here's how this came down. They were trying to trick him into going back to the crime scene and or to the burial site.
John is getting very interesting. Let's take another look at him from the documentary on Hulu, her last broadcast, The Abduction of Jodi Huisentruit.
In 2017, I was able to compile a bunch of research I had done and obtain a grand jury subpoena for John Van Cise. I wrote a GPS search warrant on his vehicle just so I could track him on his way here to do that. And that was it.
The grand jury hearing did not result in any charges being filed against John Van Cise. He died in 2024. Since then, there have been efforts in court to get that warrant for the car unsealed, but a judge ruled in March of 2025 that very little of it would be made public.
Was John ever in any other trouble with the law?
Well, he certainly was around a lot of trouble, and he did comment to someone that he had been investigated with regard to a double murder sometime prior to.
A double murder?
Yeah, actually a double murder. It was a drug-related double murder at the, I'm going to say Silver Dollar Ranch, I believe it was, but in another state. And then also, once John moved to Arizona, he and two other security guards at a Walmart store were taking an individual into the back room, I believe, for stealing a loaf of bread. And they reported that this gentleman stumbled and hit his head and died. So,
oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, John, John was around a lot of rough stuff. I mean, but again, that innocent until proven guilty, right? I mean, it just, and look, I got to know the guy well.
So did he named his boat after Jodi? Like, that seems like a remarkable thing to do if you're not like married to a person. Like, what was their relationship?
Well, he said he was just so fond of her. And in fact, he said you couldn't help but love her. You just couldn't help but love her. She was so special. And so he did name his boat by name. He didn't inscript it or inscribe it on the back of the boat, as some people had speculated, but he did refer to his boat as Jodi. In many respects, I think it's fair to say John was in love with Jodi. There's just no question about it.
Every once in a while, something comes along that reminds us of the power of storytelling. something bold, meaningful, and grounded in faith. The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin, is a new 7-part series from the Daily Wire based on the novels by Stephen R. Lawhead. In the series, as pagan gods fall silent and empires collapse, one man's faith lights the spark of a civilization reborn. It's a story about courage, order, and moral clarity. It's the kind of story Hollywood does not make anymore. Through blood, faith, and sacrifice, Merlin becomes the bridge between myth and history and shapes the destiny of kings. The Pendragon Cycle, Rise of the Merlin, premieres exclusively on Daily Wire Plus on January 22nd, 2026. Watch the new trailer now at pendragonseries.com. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.